Yeah. I had when I had Kevin Brosh on, he was he was in the background doing this the whole time. And we are live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Real Hospitality Live. This has been a long time coming with you guys. I'm super excited to finally have you on. You guys were actually one of the first guests that we invited on. Life happens. COVID happened over the years. You guys have grown your business in such a huge way. And I'm so excited to have my guests on today. Jose Albis, Alex Cook from Moduurn. They're an app development company out of Victoria, Canada. And I'm super excited to have you guys on. Now, for everybody who's watching on any platform that is YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the other ones, feel free to join in, ask questions. This is meant to be an interactive experience so that if you ever had a question about ordering platforms, delivery platforms, apps, all kinds of stuff to do with your POS system, integrating, this is what these guys do, and they're the pros. So now's your chance to ask. And if you're watching this not on the live program, then feel free to pop your question in. Myself and these fine gentlemen will be popping back over the next several days, going back and answering questions that you might have so that we can get you on the right path. Welcome, gents. It's great to see you on here finally.
Hey, Jason, great to see you. And yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Awesome. It's been a long build up.
Been a few years when we first met.
As a matter of fact, you guys were one of the first companies that I invited to come onto the show when we first started Real Hospitality Live. I think we're 3 years in and 70 something shows now, which now we finally got you on.
Yeah. Like a lot has changed for you and a lot of change has changed for us as well.
Oh, 100%. And I think the timing is right too, because of exactly what our world is after our last 16 months. I've been calling it the blip because I'm a big Marvel fan. So now you guys started Moduurn, I think almost just before we pretty much started Real Hospitality Network, which is I think about 5 years ago. Am I right?
Yeah, it'll be 6 years in October.
Yeah. So how did you guys decide that this was a good idea and you were going to jump into this? Because you're both pros in your own right.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So, Moduurn's a company, we're almost 6 years in, but I had another online ordering company before this. And my background is the point of sale industry. And so I sold point of sale systems like Squirrel and Maitre d' and Pixel Point and whatnot. And I had a couple of software developers walk in my office many years ago, and they had this new technology. But it was so new, they didn't have an app in an app store. It was all dealt with QR codes. Right. And so now we had to educate a whole client base. There was no Starbucks or Timmy's or McDonald's. Nobody was in this space, really, except for Panera Bread. They were really the pioneers in the industry down in the United States.
Right.
And we looked at this as something I had never seen, where it was really driven for the consumer to place orders on their mobile phone, on their device, where previously it was all e-commerce based. And so we worked with them closely, and I say we, my old company and I, and they needed someone to help bring them to market, but also really build their product, because they didn't understand hospitality that well, and they didn't understand the point of sale industry. But where they sort of fell short, for lack of a better word, was they didn't see the vision as far as enterprise clients and building a system that was enterprise ready, and also integration. So third-party integration with POS companies, gift card loyalty companies, delivery companies, et cetera. And that's when I hired Jose, when I had the old company, to help me with some digital marketing initiatives. And from there, the kind of light bulb went off. He was working with another partner on another project, which was an app that builds apps. And all of a sudden, the three of us came together, and we're 3 of the 4 co-founders of what we know now as Moduurn. And this was really, as we were going through the name, deciding what are we going to call this company. And Jose can tell you a great amount of the story, but we really love the name Moduurn, but that was taken in every possible way. So we looked at different ways to spell it. And this is what we found that worked for all the target markets we wanted to go after. So Moduurn restaurants, Moduurn menu, Moduurn stadiums, golf, hotels, resorts. And we could attach ourselves. So Moduurn is the main brand, and then these target markets are someone we could do some sub-marketing to.
And Well, everybody knows that Jose's a rock star. So that goes without saying. So good choice.
Yeah.
Now that we're, I almost hesitate to say post blip, but the current state of where we're at with the hospitality industry, and in particular in travel and tourism, has really kind of brought us to a point where we really need to be having conversations with guys like you, because we've been almost forced into or bullied into a position where there are two or three major players that are third-party delivery companies, and I'm famous for bitching about them. And I think innovators like you guys who have been watching what's going on and educating people and innovating and really creating the future of where we need to be if we're going to survive as an industry, and delivery has to be part of what we do. And really, I think as an industry, we've accepted that. Jose, what are your thoughts on where we're at now?
Well, I think that if you see the adoption of e-commerce, it took about 20 years to get to 18%. And then in COVID, it jumped another 16 points within the first month, which is unheard of. At this point, where we are is that a lot of people, the majority of people that had never placed an order online did it for the first time during the last 16 months. Same as for restaurants, there is the first time that they've really had to, as a necessity, get an online ordering system and kind of, so to speak, forced to really learn what is it about. Those that remain and stayed with only the third-party apps, of course, it is a source of survival. But the question is it a source of growth now? What is it? Is it time? Like, right. There is a maturity that happened during the last year, both in users learning to use these apps and in the restaurants learning that online can be a powerful tool. What they probably have not seen is that it can be actually very profitable, which is the type of things that we actually support them and help them in achieving.
Now, when you say more profitable, there's the profit part of it, and then there's also the control part of it. Correct. Where I always harken back, because we always do a pre-show the day before we do our show, so we always have this great grand conversation that I always throw back to that nobody else saw. So, but when we talk about profit, part of that is taking control of your data, taking control of the information, being able to really connect with your own customers rather than having somebody else's company doing that you're paying 25 to 30%. How are you guys doing that?
So there's a few aspects to that. One is about how technology has enabled things or given the power for the hospitality industry to actually regain that power in ways that we haven't seen before. Meaning that you can actually, through technology, you're able to create new ways of servicing that may have not existed before. Right. And you may be able to offer customer service in a new way that it didn't exist before. But the most powerful thing is, like, when you own and control that technology, then you have the capability of taking it to the next level, maximize what we call in our corporate culture remarkable customer experiences, maximizing that and find new ways of revenue and giving an amazing customer service. It's one of the most important things, if not for a brand. The brand is the emotional connection that a user has with the experience of your product. So when we think about a particular brand, we're thinking of their food, where it's like a Pavlovian reaction where we start salivating, thinking about what we want. Right. So
you're making me hungry, Jose.
So when we consider that and then think about that there is a degree where we're in the market from the hungry to hungry. And when you use technology, you're able to, what we do we have like a philosophy of just-in-time ordering, managing expectations in a way that actually you can blow someone's minds away, just with both building that craving, but also satisfying it, right, and taking it to the next level.
I think also being able to access your own customers is is absolutely key. I mean, we were talking about this when, like, for example, if you just ran out of something on your last order and everybody in the whole restaurant knows that it's 86 5 minutes ago, you can't get that change that quickly on another app program. And on top of that, you can't even really, in the most cases, it's very difficult to find out even the phone number or the contact information for the customer who you're trying to fill the order for, which is like pulling out your freaking hair. I've been there standing in the kitchen going, how do we get a hold of this person? And they're going to be so upset with us. And of course, in hospitality, I mean, for us in hospitality, we're all about wanting to make people feel comfortable and them love our food and love the experience and all of that. But if we're losing that by losing control, that crushes us in a way where, you know, we can't connect with them. And the other thing too, I mean, this is a quote that Grant Cardone actually said when he was on my show. One thing that you never see is managers calling back customers the next day, even if you called 3 or 5. And saying, hey, how was your experience last night? You received a delivery from us. We don't want anything from you. We just want to call and say, how was it? And thanks so much. These are type of things you can't do if you don't have that information to work with your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in when you are able to actually have this technology that it's available and under your control, you're able to tailor a lot of pieces of the experience, a lot of pieces of creating promotions. You have that visibility that didn't exist before. Mm-hmm. One of the examples that as a marketer, I like to illustrate to our clients is that, for example, the native apps, having an app, it's a word of mouth machine. People saying they have an app that on its own, it's a motivation to go and try it out, download it, try it out, and it gives that prestige to the brand as well.
Right, exactly.
Looking back on what you said there, Jason, about manager phoning back to see how the experience was, we have the ability to build that in our system. So at the end of the order, instead of having to go to social media, if you had a bad experience, you can now actually let the restaurant know that you actually had a poor, fair, or great experience. The great ones, you know, they're fantastic. We don't have to worry about them too much, but in this case, it's going to go back to the restaurateur, and now they can phone the customer and deal with them directly instead of letting them go to social media and do their rant or whatever they want.
And they do.
And they do, definitely. So we look at this as, you know, how can we use our solution, our technology to help improve that customer service all the way through? But also, we come from a place, and we always have, of, you know, very simple. How can we help? Right? So how can we help restaurateurs? How can we help them become more successful through online ordering? How can we help them become more profitable? The key factor there. And how can we help with customer relationships? So loyal customers continuing to come back. I've always had this theory that if they don't have a good experience from the first time they use your app, they're not going to come back. So right away, the customer, and this is the difference, a point of sale system, you get to train your staff. They don't get a choice on what they use. In this case, the end user is the one who's deciding whether they're going to come back to that app or not. And so when we build something, we have to have that experience that emulates that relationship that you would have with a server or a staff member using technology. So our goal is really to help improve that overall customer experience with using technology and not replacing customers and staff, I should say.
That's absolutely key. And when we talk about customer experience using the app, I did a consulting job with a company in Vancouver that had an app company. And the most impressive thing that they had when I showed up was that they had exactly 100% of people deleting the app within 24 hours of downloading it. Because it was impossible to use. It was confusing. It didn't make sense. And it 100% of the people who downloaded it within 24 hours got rid of it.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. You know, we have three fundamental pieces of our foundation. It has to be simple, it has to be quick, and it has to be robust, meaning it has to work all the time. I was on the phone with a prospect, a future client with us, and he's ready to switch because the system was down again. And the customer's now phoning in and complaining. So there's a great deal of effort and time and resources and money going into the infrastructure to make sure our systems are constantly up and operational.
Mm-hmm. To add to that,
go ahead,
I think that it's important that what we put into the menu engineering, Like when it comes to technology, again, you have an opportunity to redefine what menu engineering is. And you're able to give the customer that experience where they have all the time in the world with a waiter that is sitting, that is right next to them, answering all the questions. As long as you give them the possibilities, they will be choosing as their liking, and you'll be surprised how much an average check can go up because you gave them those possibilities.
I teach
Nobody,
that.
like I always say, is like you give them beautiful pictures that makes them hungry. You give them all the possibilities, because guess what? When nobody's watching and nobody's judging, the choices are more ample.
Yeah, and just to add on to Jose there, when he talks about menu engineering, when we build menus online, they're very different than what you build in a restaurant. So your paper menus, your menu boards, where typically you start on the left-hand side and then you have appetizers, entrees, et cetera. The real estate is different because you're scrolling up. So now, how do you best utilize that real estate? Are you promoting your best selling categories, your best selling and highest profit items first, and then maybe deleting some menu items that aren't selling well, or maybe they're not that profitable, or maybe they just don't travel well for takeout.
Right.
And this is constantly evolving. So your menu is never going to be the same, as we know in hospitality, but we also make it really simple, even to adjust the order that you have on your app, because that's what the customers are going to be driven towards, is usually those first 2 or 3 menu items.
Absolutely. We have a question that came up from Darren Adair in the U.S. Are your clients seeing an increase in average? Are your clients seeing an average in tickets as a result of using Moduurn? And are there some successes that you can share?
Yes. Jose, why don't you talk about the average check and then some of the success stories of the 90 days program?
Yeah, so we saw a gap when we in the company, when we saw a gap in the hospitality industry, where, if you remember, and this is where I started thinking about the app that builds apps, when social media came out and everything was in business, in retail, everything was like jumping the bandwagon. And at the same time, hospitality was like, well, that's not even related to us, so I'm gonna get that Facebook page that they're telling me. I'm gonna do the other little thing, but
Right.
Never taking any action, never really building an audience or doing much with that. And I saw, this is like, we're talking about an 8-year gap that needed to be filled out so that they really could take advantage of the system. So our technology does a lot of these things naturally. Our menu engineers help in the process of how to engineer these menus to maximizing the upsells, and to attract more and bigger, more possibilities, so that the average check goes up. And then additionally, we have a marketing coaching program that helps you on taking all of that into a completely different level. We've had the case that Alex was saying, a client in White Rock with a truck that sandwiches and a big audience on Facebook. The sandwiches were amazing. People were talking about it great. So he had to dust off his laptop because he completely reluctant and avoiding technology as much as possible. And in a truck that he and his wife worked themselves all the way to accounting, they joined the program, and we within the first month they saw an increase of 11,000%. It was a huge jump, and it was an amazing process to go with him, and shifting totally a paradigm shift in and mindset, in understanding that by doing little things every day, very simple, just being organized, and we will give them all the tools and strategies so that on a daily basis, you do this, you do that, check out on this, check out on that, just do it repetitively. And then numbers started to just grow and grow, the audience, the loyalty coming back, raving fans, talking about raving fans, the reviews are bigger, better, like Fantastic. It's just amazing. So all of that comes back to how do we, from the build a product for them with the menu and everything else, with a service and a workflow that matches how the brand usually would serve. Our system, we've designed it purposely so that it is flexible enough to emulate, like Alex was saying, that branded experience, like if you were coming into the store.
Right.
And it's not just simply a list of things. It's actually, how do you put them? How do you invite them? How do you show it to them, display it to them? If they've been in person, another client that I love how the app worked, because the reviews were exactly that. it's like being in real life. It's like having the waiter next to me and answering all the questions I may have. I cannot imagine how perfect this is, like if I was in the restaurant. That's what we love here.
Just to go back, on average, we're seeing increases on the average checks about 20%, because unlike when you're ordering on the phone or you're ordering through your server, they're the ones asking all the questions. Now, when you're online, you have the freedom. But going back to the menu engineering again, it's what kind of add-ons do you have on that particular menu item that typically you wouldn't advertise on a paper menu, but now you have the option, so you can add on. I use the example: you can add on a fried egg to a hamburger. And a lot of restaurants don't do that, but you have eggs in inventory. So why not give them the option for an extra $2 upcharge? How we do combos. And the other thing with the modifiers is building your modifier list. So you have as the operator, you give the customers the choice to modify the item as much or as little as you want them to do. So you're guiding them through the process. You're not giving them free reign. Like if I call in an order, I'm going to say, I'd like this on the side. I want this and this, and it's really up to you to give them that option.
That's great in such a way. Even when I'm training servers and we're on a POS system, there's may select and must select.
Right.
So you may select what you want, but you must select this.
And that actually makes it easier for the kitchen too. So we always say, like, when you're looking at your online menu, like pizza is a great example. Like traditionally, pizzas have 2-for-1s and combos and half and mix and match, which we can manage and we can do it well. But the question now is that the right menu mix for your business and for your clients? So as a guest, if you give me those options, I'm gonna take you up on it. So I'm gonna do a half and half pizza, and I want the combo and the mix and match. But now the kitchen, and we know it's harder to get kitchen staff, you've got to train them on all your menu items. And so now we can simplify both the kitchen staff and again, it comes back to what choices do you want your customers to have? You're in control instead of giving someone free reign to order however they want.
One of the biggest things that when I'm talking with operators and we're talking about apps and delivery programs and the whole thing is having almost a bank of tablets across the back, and you've got to have Billy the bartender go and take the tablet and ring it into the POS system, and if he screws it up, then it's screwed up. If he misses something on there, then your tally at the end of the day doesn't make sense. How are you guys with integration into POS systems?
Well, that's one of our specialties. So the software development company that we partner with, that is their specialty is third-party integration. We currently integrate with about 8 different POS systems and growing. So our goal is to do 1 more a month. And then we also integrate with a number of gift card and loyalty solutions, third-party integrators, where we can bring all the delivery companies and Moduurn into one POS system. And then we're also integrated to companies like DoorDash. So if you want to add delivery as your own delivery service, so the benefit here is the customer has no idea that it's going to DoorDash. They just know that when I go to your app as your business, I see now takeout and delivery is an option. Once the order has been accepted, then it's dispatched to DoorDash. They take care of the rest of the delivery and all the communication. The benefit for things like this is now, and I think this is kind of like the days of the Groupon, where people just gravitate to third-party delivery because they don't know any different. They haven't done enough homework. But the big thing that's really missed here, and you talked about this at the very beginning of the show, who owns your data? So when you go through your own app, the data now gets back into your hands. You now own your customer, where before you're just renting your customer. You may get that customer back. You may never get them back. In this case here, you at least have that information now to do your part to get them to become a loyal customer and to continue to come back through some marketing initiatives. And the other part is reduced delivery fees. So we know that's the biggest pain point and the biggest talking point in the last 16 months is the anywhere from 15 to 30% delivery fees. So how can we get that down to an attainable number that works for your business model at, let's say, 8 or 10%, even as high
and even at 15. So I'm being told by reps from one of the biggest 2 companies that are doing delivery aggregator, that the 15% is just a temporary thing. It's getting jacked back up right away. So don't bother asking for a lower fee if you're at 25% now, when we've been
They
had a boot on your throat for the last year and a half. Don't bother asking because it's going back up, and we intend to continue screwing you.
Yeah, they've made that very clear that they're going back up to 25%.
Yeah,
as soon as they can, as soon as it stops being mandated by the government.
Exactly. I mean, I wasn't for it being mandated in the first place, but I never agreed with 25%. There's a few more questions that we have on here. Can I use my own delivery drivers or a local company?
That's a really good question. So if you have your own drivers, certainly. Where we see the future going, and this is what we're looking at now, is giving you the option not just to use the 3 or 4 major delivery companies, but now you have the flexibility to have your own fleet and also some of the local couriers. So you don't have that limitation. Again, it's about putting the power back into the operator's hands so they can pick and choose. They're not married into one third-party delivery company or 2 or 3. They can use a combination. And here's an example. You have your own fleet, and now you have 1 or 2 people phone in sick, 2 or 3, drivers. And so you can dispatch your own drivers until you're no longer able to fulfill that order. Now you can dispatch DoorDash or Uber Eats or your local courier company to come pick up those orders. So this is where we see the future as far as delivery. We really see that it's not going to go away. It's about now, if it's not going to go away, how can we shift the power back to the control of the operator?
For sure. One more question, and we've got a few more things to cover. Can you share a bit more about the analytics and reporting you have for your clients? That one came from YouTube.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So we have a really powerful 2-tier of analytics. We have the basic that comes in the reporting of what you do in the day, what even all the way to the ingredients, the items that are part of a recipe or the modifiers, what was used, what credit cards, all of that. And then we also have a business intelligence dashboards that we can customize to the needs of the client. This comes with think about it, it's like an engine that consumes any kind of data, and we put it all together in a single dashboard that you can actually compare all these different sources of information. You can combine it with your Google Analytics and also with the performance of the app, how it goes into the behavior and flow within the app, all the way from your Facebook. The Facebook pixel can be integrated. All of these different pieces of information, including your ERP. If we integrate with your ERP, if you're a huge organization, a food service, then that information, we can bring it in. Then all of that fire hose of information, then how do we present it? We present it in how it makes sense for the business. So we have operators that, for example, in energy camps, that their main goal, given that there's energy, they want to make sure that they can lower the cost and minimize the waste so that they can actually present this in reports. So we create systems, and the analytics for them would be based on what time of the day, what type of category and items were at certain times. In airports, we do something very similar, even more important, because they have to control the consumption of alcohol. So is it in the morning? What happens during lunch and on the weekends? How it changes? So they want to track hour by hour so that the whole supply chain can be optimized to the iota.
We don't want people too ripped getting on the plane to go to Vegas.
Exactly. So yes, it's we can go to a level of granularity that it's really powerful.
What's the process to set up? I mean, we don't have to go into detail, but I mean, how long would it take for you guys to work with an operator who wants to really get involved, take control of their own data, their own marketing, their own everything? I mean, this is something that is accessible to all operators. And I as an operator and working with operators, something like this always feels like it's okay. Well, this is going to take a lot of my time, and I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, good question. I mean, we try to do most of the work for the client, and the reason is we know they're busy. We know that this is something that they feel that they're going to have to invest a lot in, but the fact is they really don't. We try to involve them as much and as little as possible. And so we can take a customer live in as little as 7 to 10 business days. And
Fantastic.
during COVID at the beginning, we actually brought that down to 5 days, and we were working 7 days straight just to help operators get up and running. Typically, it takes about 3 weeks because there is a lot to do. So there's everything from the menu engineering, there's training of the system, both the back of the house and the front of the house. Then we have the white labeling, the branding, the app submission, and then a marketing initiative. But the marketing initiative can, we start with the basics. That's your website, your social media, your messaging on your website. What does that look like? Is it a little tab at the top that says order online? Or are you actually telling the customer and giving them a story? We want you to order online because this is part of our business model. So we look at all of that. So it's a continuous process. Once you start it and you're live, you learn more about your system and you learn more about your customers. So then it's going to constantly evolve, right?
I mean, that's ties into really what have we learned? So like, what have we learned now through really almost being pushed off the ledge in the last year and a half to as an industry and from you folks as professionals? What have we learned about the importance of being able to have something that we can control, to work with you guys and the app industry itself?
I think when we look at March and April 2020, most operators, this is fairly new. So if you didn't have online ordering, you didn't know what a good app was. You didn't know what a good or a poor solution was. Right. Didn't even have time to research it. So you went out there, you maybe looked at 2 or 3 and then made a decision, and you wanted to get it up and running as quickly as possible. And I think now that we have bums in the seats again, we see there's an end to the pandemic, that I think most of these operators who are going to be looking long-term of incorporating takeout or delivery is they're going to be looking for the right solution for this for their business now. And so they're going to be doing more research, and they're going to be doing, taking a look at more companies to find out which one is going to be able to take them into the future. And I think that's where we're well positioned is, whether it's a small independent operator, a large organization, a stadium, a golf course, we have the ability to have the exact same platform to work with them, but it's much more, it goes much more deeper than that. And I really think that, again, when we look at it, it was such a new industry that even people who had a lot of marketing experience still didn't know the best way or proper way to market or implement something like online ordering, but also what's your restaurant flow? How are you going to change your restaurant flow if you're moving this forward? You and I talked before the show here about, as you're building or doing renovations to your restaurant, how do you move people away from the lobby for pickup and delivery and maybe have a side pickup window? So those people who are dining in still have that great dining experience without, say, delivery drivers coming in with big bags taking up the space. And, in the winter, doors opening and closing in the cold air. So we want to have, I think that's where the future is going to go, is that people are going to be really looking at if this is going to be a long-term plan for their business model, how and what are they going to do to incorporate that properly?
I really don't see it going away. And as we were talking in pre-show yesterday, we were kind of being nostalgic a little bit about being able to go in the side door at Pizza Delight or Montana's or whatever and go in, and they had a separate door and a separate counter where you just came in and a bell would ring basically, and you would come in and pick that up. And I think when we're talking about designing restaurants for the future and currently maybe trying to figure out a better way, it harkens back to what have we learned? I mean, we've learned that should be brought back so that you don't have 8 or 10 or 15 guys standing there with their bags and the customers behind and the host is trying to say, oh, no, guys, you have to move out of the way. These people are coming in to sit down. It's become, it's not a bad problem to have 8 or 10 orders to go out, but it is a bad problem to have them all the guys all standing in the way. Yeah, I don't see it going away though.
No, and I think this is going to be just part of the new normal moving forward. And I think the other thing is operators have discovered that this is quite profitable and can be. During COVID, where, we heard stories of restaurants that were closing down, we didn't hear enough of the success stories. And we have, countless restaurants that were actually expanding, opening 1, 2, or 3 locations.
Right.
At the height of COVID, when everybody was, thinking the worst. they were saying, this is good for our business. In fact, we've talked to some operators who have small footprint, and they've decided they're not going to reopen their table seating. It's all takeout and delivery, because they realize that the kitchen, or in some cases the bar, that's the production facility. So that's where the moneymaker is. The seats, that's an animal that you have to feed. And sometimes it can be a hungry animal, and it can cost a lot to keep that going. And I'm not advocating getting away from in-seat dining. I love going to my favorite restaurant and pub. But if we're taking a look at the reality, where's the profit coming from? You got to look at where the production is, and that's the kitchen.
Yeah, I think that on that note, it's a new world of possibilities what technology is opening up to. I think that in our commitment, it's about empowering the actual merchant into all these possibilities. One of our favorite feedback or favorite things, especially in the 90s of success when we work with our clients, is to hear them say, guys, what do I do now? Like my kitchen's maxed. I don't know if I want to expand. Should I open a new location? Right. Should I maybe the possibilities are there. So it's a really good position to be in. And technology and what we're creating is to open all these possibilities so that the power goes back to where it should be.
Well, the fantastic thing is you guys are there to help people walk through that, to help them get set up, to share what you know, and to really be there to support not just in the data and the pricing and the setup, but also in the marketing, like you said, Jose, to be able to really make sure that if people are going to go this way, that they have some support from people who are there to try and help their business. It's not about taking a chunk and a percentage. It's about working with them. Gents, it's been fantastic having you on today. Thank you so much. I wish I was in Victoria with you.
Hey, when you get out here next time, you just give us a call. We'll take you.
Oh, hey, I'm coming in September. We're taking a trip. It's going to be fantastic. We'll give you a ring.
Excellent. Look forward.
My guests today have been Jose Albis, Alex Cook from Moduurn. Guys, it's finally high time. I'm very, very happy to have you guys on. And it's been awesome to be able to answer questions while we're on here and have it interactive. And again, as I said at the beginning of the show, if you're watching this not on the live program, either on YouTube or where we've posted it after the fact, please feel free to come back in, ask questions. Of course, contact Jose and Alex at Moduurn. You can find them on LinkedIn. They're not hard to find. Jose's got something to say. Oh, there he is. He's pointing to the sign. Yes, right behind him. It's spelled different. Thanks, fellas. It's been awesome having you.
Thank you.
We had more time with you today, but next time, I guess.